Hello, sisters and brothers. Our devotional for today, for May 7, is a reflection on My Utmost for His Highest. These are a series of devotionals written and compiled by Oswald Chambers. You can always find the link to the daily devotional at utmost.org. And today, the devotional is called Building for Eternity. And in order to look at that, we're first going to look at a few verses from Luke 14. And we're going to read verses 25 through 30. So Luke 14, starting at verse 25. Large crowds were traveling with Jesus, and turning to them, he said, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yet even their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple. And whoever does not carry their cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule you, saying, 'This person began to build and wasn't able to finish.'" And the devotional, as I mentioned, is titled Building for Eternity, looking at verse 28. Which of you, intending to build a tower, does not sit down first and count the cost, whether he has enough to finish it? Our Lord was not referring here to a cost which we have to count, but to a cost which he has already counted. The cost was those 30 years in Nazareth, those 3 years of popularity, scandal, and hatred, the unfathomable agony he experienced in Gethsemane, and the assault upon him at Calvary, the central point upon which all of time and eternity turn. Jesus Christ has counted the cost. In the final analysis, people are not going to laugh at him and say, "This man began to build and was not able to finish," as in Luke 14, verse 30. The conditions of discipleship given to us by our Lord in verses 26, 27, and 33 mean that the men and women he is going to use in his mighty building enterprises are those in whom he has done everything. If anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. Luke 14:26. This verse teaches us that the only men and women our Lord will use in his building enterprises are those who love him personally, passionately, and with great devotion. Those who have a love for him that goes far beyond any of the closest relationships on earth. The conditions are strict, but they are glorious. All that we build is going to be inspected by God. When God inspects us with his searching and refining fire, will he detect that we have built enterprises of our own on the foundation of Jesus? See 1 Corinthians 3:10 through 15. We are living in a time of tremendous enterprises, a time where we are trying to work for God, and that is where the trap is. Profoundly speaking, we can never work for God. Jesus, as a master builder, takes us over so that he may direct and control us completely for his enterprises and his building plans. And no one has any right to demand where he will be put to work. Now, in this devotional, it sounds almost a little contradictory to some of the other devotionals that Chambers has written until we get to the end. He talks about our building efforts, and the reminder here is that it's not our own efforts, but again, our willingness to allow the Lord to work through us, through Jesus to be able to shine through us and have his way with us. So we often hear and talk about using a tunnel vision or laser focus, but I think it would be better for us as believers of God and followers of Christ to think of it in terms of having a cross focus, that everything that we do goes through and is because of the cross. And not that the cross is an endpoint, but it's simply the perspective and the frame through which we look and the lens through which we look when we consider what we ought to do. And I remember, hearing these verses from a very young age about having to hate your own father and mother, otherwise you cannot be a disciple. And that always struck me as odd, because that just didn't sound right. So maybe it's better for us to look at that and consider what Chambers has said here, that really what it's about is that there's nothing that can turn us away from serving Jesus Christ. That is the one and singular purpose through which we live our lives, so that if anything were to come in the way of doing so, we would be able to turn aside from that and continue doing the work that we have been called to do. So, as you think about what your next steps might be, or even what your steps ought to be right now, think of them as having a cross focus, and look at that at those next steps as saying, how can I follow Jesus in this way? What is it that I am being called to do, and am I willing to surrender what needs to be surrendered in order to do that work? So thank you as always for listening. I hope this finds you encouraged today. Be safe and stay well.